Okay. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Arunaji. Yes, this is how we greet everybody. First, we say Namaste. Namaste, the word Namaste means that I bow to the divine within you. So we believe that everybody has divinity in the person. And when we do this, we say we bow to the divinity or divine within the person who we are addressing to. So this is the Namaste. I'm going to talk about many facets of Hinduism. Remember one thing, feel free to ask any question at any time that you wish to.
Okay.
There is no restraint, there's no restriction. My name is Piyush. It's Piyush.
Piyush.
That's correct. That's my name, and my last name is Sharma. And I have been, I'm a regular person who has had led a life in marketing and sales, and I have been an MBA from Indira Gandhi Open University in India. Um, I have pursued my career as everybody does, and only this was my interest because this is how my upbringing is. And I have been reading from the very early age, so I have read a lot of things about Hinduism and literature and everything. So here I start. Hinduism, I would say, is a very, very open or a democratic faith or a belief where you can say anything, you can write anything, you can talk about anything, nobody minds, nobody takes it otherwise. Everybody, even if you write something that is totally against the basic philosophy, we will listen to it very patiently. There'll be people who will accept it also. You can publish books also. There is no diktat that says that we should kill you or hurt you or anything like that. It never happens.
Right.
Hinduism primarily is based on Vedas. We have four Vedas that we believe are there. And four Vedas, the names of the Vedas are Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, and Atharva Veda. Atharva. These are the four Vedas. The Vedas compile a total of 20,439 mantras. Mantras are typically written as two lines. So there'll be a first line and a second line. It's like a prose. They're all written in a prose. Mantras of the Vedas. Vedas are the only books or the mantras that are supposed to be believed as they are the voice of the God. Why do we believe them to be the voice of the God? Let me start with the Vedas and then I will come to the rest. We believe it is the voice of the God because it has existed before this universe was made. How do we know it has existed before the universe was made? Primarily, anybody who meditates and goes into, and I will talk about meditation also. Anybody who meditates and goes into really deep meditation and wants to seek the meaning that is behind all the universal facilities or faculties and wants to understand the real sciences directly from the maker. This person, whoever meditates, is in a position to go through those wavelengths where he is able to hear the sounds that are floating in the universe all the time. He can connect to them. Even NASA has spoken about it. Now, when a person is able to connect to that sound, he hears exactly the same mantras that have been in the book of Vedas. This has been documented by multiple people who have gone into meditation and written and thought and spoken about it. There are very few, or I would say there are none, who have been able to, at one time or in one lifetime, listen to all the 20,000 odd mantras. There are people who have done some, people who have done some, but they have documented it that yes, I heard these. Now, The mantras we understand naturally, if it comes to a human ear, it has to be in a certain language. So that language has been said to be the Vedic Sanskrit, the Sanskrit that belongs to the Vedas. So we call it Vedic Sanskrit. Now, Vedic Sanskrit is not a language written by human beings. It's not a language made by human beings. So no humans could understand that language. It had to be deciphered and made into simple words to understand what this could be. There are saints, or we call them rishis. Rishi is somebody who is able to decipher or understand a mantra. Such people, we name them as rishi.
Do you have to do something to be does that come at the end of like a series of study, or is it like a self-declared thing?
No, nobody declares himself, because other people declare that person to be that you are now a rishi because you are able to decipher and explain the mantras.
Right, so you've explained it to us in a way that we now understand to a greater extent, and therefore we think you're worthy of continuing to listen to something like
And
this?
also that you are able to understand yourself in a little different way and in a better way, so that you can explain to us in a better grammatical manner.
Right.
So those people have been named rishis who have been able to decipher and explain the mantras to us. From the Vedic Sanskrit, to make it simpler and simpler and simpler, we have made other languages like Sanskrit, and then from Sanskrit, the other languages. Uh,
Oh, so sorry, Vedic Sanskrit isn't the same as
Sanskrit.
Sanskrit. They're different.
No, it's not the same. They're totally
Okay.
different.
Okay.
We have named it as Vedic Sanskrit only because we could not name anything else to it.
Right.
We
That's
can
the
call it
name of the
Vedic
language.
language. You can
Right.
just call it Vedic language.
Right. Right.
But
Okay.
we we call it Vedic Sanskrit because we have taken Sanskrit from it. So
Right.
going
That was the language.
backwards, we
Yeah.
backwards we
That's right.
name it
Right.
as Vedic Sanskrit.
Got it.
Now, Vedas, the purpose of the mantras primarily, they are like energy waves, like radioactive waves that float through the universe, and their purpose is to enable and give the universal strength or the powers in the universe so that the whole system works in a proper manner. The only way I can explain it to you is that suppose you take a huge big hall, and in that hall you place a balloon or a ball in between, and then there are certain 8, 9 other balls that you strategically place in a distance, and they all have to rotate at the same time. Obviously, what you would do is you would have a lot of wind power to support that ball from the bottom so that it stays floating in the center. And then you will have the similar power or magnetic or whatever powers on the other sides so that the other balls can be managed and float together. Whatever you need to make this system work is
So it's kind of like
exactly
it's like balance. It keeps the
correct.
balance. Okay.
Whatever you need in the system to work is exactly what the Ved mantras do in the universe.
Right.
Once the Ved mantras or the universe starts forming, the Ved mantras start flowing. It is the same Ved mantras that provide the power that is required in a sun or in a moon or in a earth that is needed for whatever it is needed.
Right.
Similar Ved mantras are also required to provide the energy that makes oxygen or that builds or makes the hydrogen or makes nitrogen, whatever it makes. They are how are these gases made in the world. So this is why we say that the Ved mantras are the voice of the God. And it is the Ved mantras that give us the philosophy and the sciences that we believe are the science today. So we, in a nutshell, say that just like you buy some equipment from the market, if you buy a microwave, you also get an instruction manual how to use the microwave. Vedas are the instruction manual of the universe, of how the universe should be understood, how it should be followed, what it should be done, what should not to be done.
And sorry, if we could just stop there for a sec. So if I'm understanding, it kind of adjusts as we change because when people first started, not even when they first, let's go back 1,000 years, not even well into Hindu tradition. obviously people's view and what they knew of the world was so different then, based on the tools we had to measure and the things that we would observe. And as that develops, it seems like everything that develops is going to be a nature of those. They it required the mantras to develop in and of itself. It's sort of like the force by which things change. And so, would you say, so one of the things that happens with Christianity, this is sort of my basis because that's what the culture that I grew up in. I was never particularly religious, but I found that its description of things isn't all encompassing. And as we've learned things, it sort of violates the statements in the holy texts there, in that what they said doesn't encompass the change and where we end up. And so, if I'm understanding correctly, this idea is going to move with anywhere we go, because anywhere we go is sort of spawned from these mantras, or at least needs to use them to get where we went. Is that correct?
You see, let me answer it this way, that knowledge always exists.
Mm,
We may not know it. I may not know the principle of how to make an atom bomb, but the knowledge has always existed.
right, the potential for the creation, and so yes, so the knowledge is in the universe somewhere.
So knowledge is always there. Everybody who gets the knowledge works on it, meditates on it, and the knowledge flows.
Mm,
In every field, in every part of the life, this is what happens.
yeah.
If I'm going to be a very good student and I want to be doing my researches in a certain type of a field in sciences or whatever, and then I become a doctorate in it, and then I started writing my theories, and that, see, I'm more meditating and concentrating, and I'm trying to get more and more of it. Knowledge always flows. It depends on how and when one is ready to tap onto it.
Hmm. I
That's
love
the
it.
only difference. So when we tap onto it is when we get only that part or a little more than what we want. And we say, wow, look what I know. See, that's how the knowledge flows into every human being. That's how it flows. So this is where the knowledge is there. How are you going to get it and tap it depends upon what you want.
Yeah, I love that idea. It what rings true to me is, whenever you I've done a lot of like software development and stuff in my professional career, and when you come upon a solution, it's usually just kind of comes to you and you're not quite sure. You go out and test it afterwards, but there is some element that just taps you on the head kind of and says this, like, and you're not even really sure where that comes from. And I find it happens in art too. All of a sudden you'll get an inspiration for something and it's like, where did that come from? And you can never recreate that intentionally. It's almost like the lack of intention is kind of what brings it to you.
That is
And
that is what we say. The knowledge always flows,
yes, I
and
really
that's
love that
how.
idea.
And you gain knowledge because knowledge is there in the atmosphere, ready to be available to you.
Right.
What you tap and how much you tap depends upon person to person. Also, whatever you seek, you always get a little more.
Okay.
That's the law of the knowledge. Now, saying all this, I was trying to tell you what Vedas are. So basically, the religion Hinduism is based on Vedas. In Vedas, there is no history, there is no geography, there is no religion, nothing. That is what Vedas are. That is why we believe that the Vedas are the basic principles. Now, in the Indian history, in the back, if you track back many, many, many years, we have documented history that is available to us for about 7 to 8,000 years from now. But we have other histories which are not. When a society is there for the, say, 100,000 years, you cannot have history books for 100,000 years. It does not happen. So what happens is that you only document certain incidents which are very main and major, which go through people by, I would say, talks or fables or stories, and that
Yeah.
keeps on floating, and that's how it is done. So
Yeah, we
that
call
is
it
what has
an oral tradition, right? You're
oral
passing,
tradition, mostly because the books don't survive that long.
right?
So what I would say is this, that the philosophies of Indian traditions go back to a little over 100 million years. The life of earth, all principles you need to know about are there in the Vedas, and we learn from them every day. What is the age of the whole system, the whole this universe that we live in, with our planets and our systems and everything else? The Vedas say that the life of this universe is 4,320,000,000 years. This is exactly where the modern science has also accepted it. That yes, that seems to be the age of the
Hmm.
universe. The Vedas also say that the humanity, the human life, or life in any form, sorry, not human life, but life in any form, including the vegetations and the animal life in any form, has been on this earth for 1,980,000,000 years from now. Now, when we say all these things, we have a very unique way of dividing and talking about things. We say that the 4,320,000,000 years could be divided into 14 chapters. Why do we divide into 14 chapters? Because each of this time is when there is a major difference that happens in the creation. And we are right now going through the seventh chapter.
Oh, we're almost halfway.
Yes, the seventh chapter belongs to the powers of the sun or the solar. So it is known as the sun chapter. Now, Vedas say that when the seventh chapter happens is when only the human beings can be born, because they can be sustained and the system is such that they will be here. After which, the gases will not be favorable, and the heat system or the cold system will not be favorable for life to exist on this earth.
Sounds familiar.
So, this is what the modern science has started accepting, though
Hmm.
we have said it hundreds of thousands of years ago. Now, anyway, I will come to the philosophy of creation and everything later on, which you want to know. I'll talk about it. I have done intense lectures on it before also. But this is the Vedas. From Vedas, we have written six philosophies, which is called darshan. The word darshan means philosophy. There are six different books on philosophies that have been written again by different six rishis. Now, these six philosophies take up each, one subject each, and they start searching the Vedas to see if they can find mantras on this subject anywhere. And from those mantras, they derive the entire philosophy, and they say, okay, now let me examine the mantras and see how correct or how true they are. So each of these rishis have done an intense research work on a particular subject that they have picked up, and they start writing on that subject while practicing it and proving it that what I'm saying is correct. They don't accept word by word what is written in the Vedas, they challenge it, and they still want to examine it and prove how it is correct. So these six philosophies, one of these is called the Yoga Darshan, from where the yoga comes. So one of them is called the Yoga Darshan, and there are five more, and I can talk about those darshans to you whenever you wish to. So after the Vedas, the books that we want to read and understand are the six darshans. All the six darshans do not talk about religion. They don't talk about history or geography. Then after the six darshans, we come to what is called Upanishad. There is a way of understanding. It's called Upanishad. Upanishads are easier to understand than the darshans. Now, Upanishads are 11, total 11 Upanishads.
I've heard of these before.
What Upanishad does it, that is again picks up some mantras here and there from the Vedas, and they start discussing and talking about. Well, how do you? And they have typically a teacher and a student sort of background where there is one rishi who understands this subject very well. So there are 3 or 4 other people who are also experts, but they go to him to understand it more. And they sit in that rishis, it used to be called the ashram or the schools where they used to work on it. And those people will come and learn about it. And what they discuss and talk, put into theory, question, answer, everything is put into that book. It's called the Upanishad. So again, they are re-examining the principles and theories, and they are talking about what is written and why should we believe it and how should we trust it and how is it applicable to our modern life.
So, sorry, do the Upanishads deal with the 6 philosophies or the Vedas?
They deal basically with the Vedas, but there can be topics which have been discussed in philosophies also, because they don't restrict.
Right.
So after we read the Vedas, which are the toughest to understand, the easier to understand than Vedas are the Darshans, and easier to understand than Darshan are the Upanishads.
So why go hard to easy then? Why not go easy to hard?
Yes, that's what everybody should do, is go from easy to hard.
Ah, I see. Okay.
And the easiest to understand, even than the Upanishad and the Darshans, is the book called Gita.
I was reading about this, so I actually have a copy. I downloaded an English translation, but I haven't read it yet.
Okay. So the Gita is the simplest to understand. What Gita does is it takes the knowledge from the 11 Upanishads, puts it in a simple theoretical manner, even simpler to understand, so that people can understand what is being said in the philosophy. Also, it borrows a lot from the Yoga Darshan, because the proponent of Gita was a very well-known yoga master. So it takes a lot from Yoga Darshan, and it gives an example from it, explaining to you why you should understand what is written in the Upanishads. So Gita becomes the simplest among the all of them. Also, Gita was only written 5,200 years ago.
Only.
So it uses this normal Sanskrit language that is known to us today also. So it is easier to understand.
Right.
So Gita is the first doorway that should be adapted before you go to Upanishads, then Darshans, and then
So,
Vedas.
so the Gita weighs heavily on the yoga philosophy, the yogic philosophy, and then is there but there isn't other ones at that level that talk about the other 5.
No, it does not weigh heavily on yoga philosophy,
Oh,
but
okay.
it uses the examples because the person knows yoga very well.
I see. I see.
Just uses the examples to make you understand.
Got it.
Also, probably, I would say, because at that time in the society, most of the people knew yoga very well, or the Yoga Darshan very well, as it was being taught everywhere in the ashrams. So this is why he uses the yoga philosophy to make people understand.
Got it.
That's the only thing it is. Now, coming to Gita, Gita does not talk about any religion at all. This is the basic that I'm telling you today. So what do we mean when we say Hinduism? Hinduism is no religion at all. Hinduism primarily is something that when you believe in the principles laid out in any of these books that I have spoken about. I have spoken to you about 11 Upanishads, 6 Darshans, 4 Vedas, 1 Gita. When you start believing and practicing any of the principles that are laid out in these, you are a Hindu. That's what it is. You may be a very good Hindu, but you have never gone to a temple ever in your life. It doesn't
Right.
matter. Now, understand this, that I'm talking to you about these books. There are books that have been written to counter everything written in every other book. We value them also. We read them also to say that, okay, let us understand, because anybody who can write something or has something must be an intelligent human being who wants to put forth his theory. So why not listen to it?
Right.
We do listen to everybody. There is no diktat in the Hinduism that says that this person should be discarded because he talks negative. All right. So what happens here is that it's a very open religion. It has nothing that it says that you have to follow this particular human being or this particular man or the only one book, nothing like that. Okay.
Mhm.
Understand so far?
I think so. I think
Okay.
Aruna has a question though.
Yes, I'm going to ask Aruna now. What does she say? Aruna ji.
Huh. Okay. My question is, Piyush ji, would you please tell something about Brahma Sutra and Prasthanatrayi? Are they different
why,
from the...
why are you making it confusing? Okay, let's talk about it. Brahma Sutra is the word that has been given to the that is an original word. Brahma Sutra is the Vedanta Darshan.
Okay.
The name of Vedanta Darshan actually is Brahma Sutra. Okay. Vedant is the word written because that is the last darshan written on Vedic philosophy. So word means antit, ant. Ant is last, final. So ant, final, written on Vedas becomes Vedant. That is the last philosophy written on the Vedas. So it's known as Vedant. But the real name of Vedanta is Brahma Sutra.
Okay.
All right. Now,
Yes.
Prasthantrayi means that if you have to leave everything and want to take a life of a saint, which we call sannyas, denouncing the normal world and going into the world to adapt the godly manners or whatever you want to say, then you must, before leaving everything, read these three books. Okay, that is Prasthantrayi. So, Prasthantrayi, the three books are Gita, the Vedant. What is the third one? I forgot.
Upanishad.
Yes, on and the Upanishads.
And the Upanishads.
So primarily when in Prasthantrayi they talk about Upanishads, they don't talk about all Upanishads. They want to talk about only each Upanishad.
Okay.
Okay. That is because the each Upanishad has 18 mantras only. Each Upanishad is the basic or foundation or balanced 10 Upanishads. Because all 18 mantras in Upanishad are taken from the Vedas.
Okay.
Yajurveda, to be correctly, 40th chapter of Yajurveda. And then what happens from each Upanishad is that also most of the Gita has borrowed from each Upanishad. But to understand, they say that you should read these three positively, the Ish Upanishad, the Gita, and the Vedant or the Brahma Sutra, before you take into the path to read all the Upanishad, Darshan, and Vedas. Okay? That's why it's called the Prasthantrayi. Right? Now, as we have answered this question, I've spoken about the second darshan also, which is known as the Brahma Sutra or the Vedanta darshan. Right? There are four more, and I will talk about them eventually. But coming back to Hinduism, what are the few finer principles that we derive that we say that one must follow always? Now, this is what we understand. The first is that there is one God only. The God, what we call as God, is the maker of the universe. He's the maker of everything. And He is the only one that we should always worship, pray, and think about. The God that we worship does not have any form. It does not take birth. It does not die.
That was going to be my next question. So thank you.
It cannot take any human form or any other form. It's an energy source or an energy rather that we can only meditate and think about and pray upon. We have a first name for the God. It is Om. Om is the first name of the God. Everything else only describes him or talks or names his attributes or his qualities. The only first name he has is Om. Om is the sound that can be heard all over the universe, everywhere if you go out. And that's what NASA has documented. That once you're in the universe, you always constantly hear the sound of Om everywhere. So from there, the rishis obviously have been able to hear it also. And they have said that in meditation, you can hear the sound of Om. Om, the sound starts from the rock bottom of your throat, and the sound M is the last sound on the lips. So the Om encompasses the entire lingo or the language that a human being can have. So when we say Om, we actually recite the entire vocabulary in thinking about him.
So that we're capable of. So let me ask you a question. Maybe this is a little outside of what we're talking about, but so Om is this universal sound. So let's say the hum of the universe or something like this, and it contains the entire range, our entire vocal range. If so Om is a universal thing. So assuming we're not going to be here forever, and we haven't been here forever, there's other creatures, people, consciousness, whatever happens to be out there that might have different range. So is Om just what we can call it because that's what we're capable of, and really it exists below and above our range as well, and we're just not capable of saying it or hearing it? Do you know what I'm
Now,
saying? Go ahead.
Om constructs primarily of three sounds for us, plus a fourth sound, which for us is silent, and it goes beyond the sound of M or M.
Right. So yeah,
So what
outside of our
happens here
ability to
is,
hear, but
that's
somebody
right.
else, something else might be able to hear it.
That's
Just
right. That is the fourth sound that anybody else or somebody else can hear.
okay, great. I love that.
Right. So that is why we have named the god as Om, and Om is the sound that we call the god. Now we believe that there is only one God, but and also another principle is that there are three permanent things that exist in this entire creation system. As we know today, that just like we have our universe, our galaxy, the scientists have discovered 400 more galaxies somewhere or the other, right? Now, we believe that there will be more than 400 that will be discovered. And everywhere in the whole system, there are three things that exist always. They do not interfere with each other. They don't have a control on each other. The three things, one of them is God or the maker as an energy or as a power source. The second is the souls. We call it the Atma. Atma is the soul that is in between you, me, any animal, anybody. Because the souls take birth. So there are souls in every system, in everywhere that they exist. God has no power to control, to make them less or more or whatever. They exist.
So he created, and then that was kind of it. They take off and do their own thing.
Now I'll explain that to you also.
Okay.
The third entity that exists is in the minutest form, the creation or the nature or matter, what we call the matter. This is in the form of what we call Parmanu, Param Anu, which means minutest form of an atom. The science has not been able to discover the Parmanu as yet in the modern science, but they will be able to do it eventually because they have already started breaking the atoms.
Yeah.
So they know atom can be broken. We say that Parmanus are the very minutest form of the atoms from where the atoms are made. Now, coming back to it, these three entities are permanent. They always existed, they will always exist, they cannot go away anywhere. What God, when the God needs to make a creation like ours, what God would do is in a certain specific area, he would express his, we call it the tej or the energy source or like a whip or something that would come on a certain area. So the Parmanus in that certain areas that have been lying dead would start becoming active. When they start becoming active, the creation starts. Every Parmanu that is lying silent or inactive still has the three essential qualities in it. We call these qualities as Satav, Rajas, and Tamas, but the modern science in a later state calls it as electron, proton, and neutron. So we say that every Parmanu has these three inherent qualities in it. When it is lying silent, they are all inverted, so they don't react. Just when the fire or the force of the god falls in that specific area, they become externalized and they start acting, reacting with each other. That is the process that starts making a creation. And those three are present in every single atom also, because atom is made from these. And this is why in the creation, everything that we have today has these three atoms in it, has these three qualities in every atom that we see. Now, when the God has made the presence or the energy into these particular Parmanus, we call it the God content in that Parmanu or in that atom. So every atom has a bit of a God content within it. This is why we are also, as a human being, that we are made of atoms. We have that certain amount of God content sitting in every living being. Every living being having that God content is why we, whenever we want to see or want to experience God, it is said that you must internalize. This is why when we do yoga or meditation or anything, we go inside, we look inside, and we want to search him inside us because he's there inside us. That leads me to the principle that we believe in karma and karma phal. What is karma and what is karma phal? Karma is whatever one does is a karma. That I'm talking to you is a karma. That you're listening to me is a karma. That you're seeing or looking at me is a karma. Everything one does is a karma. But karma is threefold. What that means it is mansa, vacha, karma. Mansa, mental. Whatever you think is also a karma. Whatever you speak is also a karma. And then whatever you do as act upon is also a karma. So all three are karma. And every karma has an equal responding result or a fruit. Now, karma is something we do. Even if I think something mentally, it will have a result.
Mm-hmm.
All right? It will have an impact. It will bear a fruit.
For sure.
So, karma is within our hands, in the hands of human beings to perform what they want to. But the fruit is not in the hand of human beings. We do not control it. It is controlled by the maker. Now, the principle is that because the maker is within us, he even understands what we have thought about, never spoken to anybody, but we get a fruit for that also. That is because he's sitting within us. This is why when we have those desires and burning desires, they get fulfilled because he's sitting within us. He knows us. So the philosophy that we have believes in karma and karmafal, and also that he exists within every living being as he exists in the atoms. Now understand one thing, that while this body is made from the physical 5 elements, the water, fire, earth, space, and wind, while the physical body is made with these 5 elements, everything in this universe that we see today is made of these 5 elements. And these 5 elements are made again from those atoms that have been created.
Mm-hmm.
So he's present in every atom, and this is how we get made, and this is how the universe is made. So karma is something that we do. All human beings have the right to perform whatever karma they want to. But the result and of the fruit of the karma is not in our hand. It is given to us by the Maker. The souls take birth in a universe only to fulfill their karmas and their karma fruits. That is the purpose why we all come into this earth and we take birth. Because we had some karmas that we have done that we need to get fruits of. This brings me to the principle of rebirth, which we believe that every soul has a body and performs whatever according to his will is in that body. And then whatever the balance of those karmas are left behind, he has to come back to pay for that. Or whatever the burning desires in him have been, he'll be given a grant that, okay, you can get birth like that and you can get that. My burning desire can be that I never want to take a birth again and I want total salvation. I can't be, maybe. But then once all the karmas that I have done go into a zero balance, I may be able to get that. So this is
So
what
is that considered like a goal, like a driving goal for each soul is to obtain the balance and cease to be in that karmic cycle?
that is called the ultimate salvation.
Hmm.
We call it moksha, you might have read.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what the ultimate goal of human beings should be.
And sorry, is it just humans or is it everything? Is it just strictly a human?
Let's talk about other beings also. Other beings do not control their actions. They don't have the independence to do whatever they want to do. They are bound in a certain form that they are born as, and they perform only what that form allows them to perform as.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the independence. Only the human beings have the independence of doing the karma. So the karmas and the karmas fruits will only be on the human beings, while the other forms that have been born as living beings would perform their karmas all right, but they will not be punished for what they perform, as they are bound to perform what they are performing.
Yeah, they don't
They
have the
don't have a
intent,
choice.
right? They don't have
They don't have a
the top
choice.
one. Yeah.
No, they might have an intellect, but they don't have a choice. So there is a difference. This is why we believe that a soul can be born into any form of any living being at any time,
Oh, okay.
depending upon your karmas. Now, karmas lead to three things essentially that are controlled by the maker. One is the form you are born in. You can never control where you are born or what form you are born and what it is. So the birth of a soul or a body that a soul gets depends upon the karmas that he has performed. Number two is the age. Whether this body will live for 2 years or whether 12 years or whether 20 years or 150 years depends upon the karmas. And the third is consumption. What you will be able to use, how much and what you will consume and what wealth or what you will be able to gather has also been predetermined and decided. You might be able to make, you can't say that I was determined to make 1 million and I made 2 million. That does not happen like that. The
Right.
determination is only you will be making wealth. That's a determination. But
Mm-hmm.
you may not be able to consume it. You might not have the thing given to you that yes, you'll make the wealth, but you'll consume it also. You may not be able to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So what you will be able to get, that we call it the bhog, consumption. It depends upon also the karma. So three things are determined by the fruits of the karma. That what body you will get, what age you will get, life you will get, and how much will be able to consume. So if my consumption is only grass, then I will be born as a sheep and I'll only eat grass.
Is there seen as like a hierarchy? So my karmas suggest I should come back as a goat. Somebody else's karmas suggest that they should come back as a squirrel. Is there something to say goat's better than squirrel, or is
No,
it
there is no
simply
hierarchy. It's not like better or worst.
It's just what your
Because
need,
all of them, yes, all of them live their own lives and they have their forms and they're forced to live their lives.
right. And
So
so
you
it's
can't
really
say
what,
qualitatively better or worse.
right.
But in certain times, the people who have written about these things have determined that the life of the cow is the holiest among all the animals, because cow only eats grass and other things, while it gives the mankind everything that mankind needs to live on.
Mhm.
So you'll get milk products, you'll get tons of it all your lives, that survives you and makes you live. And I do not know if you know this, but in India, the cow shit or the cow dung is used to make the houses. They
And I
make the
didn't know that.
huts and houses. Walls are made from the cow shit, because once you use the cow shit outside, it becomes waterproof, so rain does not affect it, and it
Mhm.
also distracts any other insect or snakes or whatever. So no insects will come into your house if it's made with the cow dung.
Right.
So all these things that have been given to us, that's why it's supposed to be the holiest among all the other animals.
Is there some aspect too that like a cow is a very like passive animal, like it doesn't really do any harm?
It
If
never
that
does any
makes sense.
harm to anybody.
Yeah, exactly. So is that part of it, or is that
It's
just a
part of it, part of the assessment. Now, this also brings me to the fact that this is why you will understand, as you are now knowing the principles of Hinduism, that there is one God who does not take form, does not take birth. The second principle is of karma, that you do your karma, but your karma fruits are not in your hand, and you're born to do karmas. This brings me to the principle that this is why we believe in rebirth, because any soul can be born into a form according to the karma. And as we believe in rebirth, this is the cause and reason why most of the Hindus do not eat any meat, because they believe that just like I am a soul in this body, there is a soul in that body also. So,
Mhm.
what right do I have to kill that body and consume it?
Right.
This is why most of the Hindus do not eat any meats. Now, this is the basics of the Hindu religion. Also, it allows you, as there is no diktat, it allows you to believe or look at the things the way you wish to look at. You may say that I want to meditate upon God, but I need a photo of the God. But there is no photo of the God. So you
Mhm.
can make a picture of your own and you say, this is what I like and I want to meditate on it. And I may be able to meditate on a formless God also, but I need this for the beginning. So then you can have it in any which way or any power way you wish to. So this is how the so many deities, pictures, and everything have come into our faith,
Yeah,
and people have
it's
started.
interesting. It was interesting for me to hear that there is this one Om, this one God, because a lot of people would look at Hinduism as what they'd call a polytheistic religion, right? Where there's many different gods, and I guess we'll get there at perhaps a later date. But I'm guessing they are but of what an expression of a piece of the overall thing, or something like this.
That's correct. But what has also happened is this, that when we read the Vedas, in the Vedas, it is said that God has divided his own powers into three major forces to create this creation that we are in. Because God is everywhere. He has so many more things to do, but he also it is like he subdivides his own powers and makes his three assistants who will work in a certain way. So one of them is the creator who starts creating everything. The second is a sustainer who will sustain everything that has been created. And the third one is the one who will recycle. So something that needs to be destroyed, he will destroy it and recycle it, hand it over to creator again so that he can create again.
Mhm.
So what has happened is that these three forms have become the major names of the three gods that the people worship. And they have given those three forms and they start worshiping those forms. And again, as it says in Vedas, that it's every atoms that are there cannot survive or create anything unless there is also a feminine force in those atoms.
Right.
Because you need the masculine and feminine force both to create the creation. Now, somewhere in the Vedas, it tells you how do you understand if a certain atom is a masculine force or a feminine force. The modern science has not been able to reach that as yet. But this is where and how we also have feminine forces that are being worshipped in the forms of whatever we want to call them. This is the feminine force who has created the earth, and that's why we worship it. So gods and goddesses have been made in this way because we want to imagine that feminine force and give it a name, and then we start thinking about it because you are the ultimate, you are the creator. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I will also tell you the principle. It says, the Vedas say that human beings on this earth, how the human beings or any living being that is on the face of this earth is born. Human forms or living forms do not change shape and size ever. Everything has been born from the surface of the earth. Human beings, how do these souls come to the earth? Let me start from there. When universe is made, there is a very dark cloud that floats in the universe, and that comes to a certain specific area where a creation has started to be made. And once the surface of the earth is ready, it rains from that cloud. All the souls that are there are stationed in that cloud, and they fall from that cloud with the rain and come to the earth. Inside the earth, they are dug in, get into the earth like seeds. And that is where they start developing. They are born out of the Mother Earth only at a ripe age, or somewhere around 10, 12 years of age is when they come out of the earth. When they are able to walk around, take care of themselves, and do whatever they want to do on their own. This is why we call the earth as Mother Earth, because it's a mother. So for many thousands of years, everything that was born from Mother Earth itself. Till that certain time when the people who were born thought and decided that we are going to interact and have kids of our own. This is when the population getting born out of the mother had started reducing. Just like any woman has an age, how long can she produce kids? The Mother Earth also has an age as to how long it can keep producing these formats. However, even today, if you pick up some bit of dust and mud from somewhere and allow it to have some water and put it in sun, after some time you'll see some crawling insects inside it, because it still gives birth. The Mother Earth still gives birth, but the capacity to give birth to larger forms has not been there anymore. This is when the mankind decided to have interactions and born themselves. This is how everything in the system has been born, even the fishes and even the insects and everything else. So this is how the creation works. Once the sunlight form falls on these things that have fallen into the earth, they start germinating, they start growing, because the sun gives us life. This is why it's called that the seventh part of the whole creation is when the sun becomes active. Is when this happens. That is why the creation is born, and that's why it is helping us. There are names of 1,000 types of the sun rays and their activities, what each and every ray does, how some of them are coming towards the earth, how some of them are pulling from the system so that they can evaporate and take away, and how some of them are giving stuff to the earth. So there have been names and given to these 1,000 different rays. All human beings or anything that dies, the soul goes, and even today goes into the clouds and sits in the cloud. Now, whenever there is rain or whenever there is another form, snow or whatever falls, it comes back to the earth, and it comes into the earth's ground. This is how we are all, even today, the souls are transmitted. The exact way that is explained and how the souls get transmitted, I will talk about it on some other day. But this forms one of the principles of the religion that we believe in. And I would tell you this, that somewhere around 26, 27 years ago, I had read some Australian scientists had been able to look or view certain clouds of this type, some 780 million thousand years away from us or whatever, that they saw those dark clouds floating in the system, where they saw millions of small little sparkles that were going on like Christmas lights inside a cloud. This is what has been explained in the Vedas, that we call them Parjanya. These clouds are known as Parjanya, that they are Parjanya that are floating and they come, and this is how the universe is created. Now, when we start believing in all of this, these are complex theories, because I'm only telling you in a very simple manner. But when you start studying them, they are very complex theories. So when complex theories cannot be explained in a very simple manner, they are even simplified by saying that there was this God who made this, and he created this, and this God blew a whistle, and from the whistle the moon was created, or then so many planets were created, whatever. So this is how they explain it. So when they explained it in this manner, the people start thinking about many multiple types of gods and faces, and that this must be having like this, and this must be this, and this could be. So this is how the whole theory of beliefs of many other formats have come. But in everywhere, whatever format it is, they ultimately believe that it's only a form, but there is only one God, and he cannot take a birth or he cannot die.
And there's some element to, it's we can understand some of it because it's sort of beyond our understanding, right?
That's
Like,
correct.
yeah,
That's
okay.
correct. That's very correct. So this is the basic of the Hindu dharma. We call it dharma. We don't call it religion. Dharma, the word dharma means something that needs to be adopted, accepted, because it is the laws and the principles that are there in the nature and everywhere. We believe that the laws of the nature that makes the nature run and work are the laws that should be adapted by any human being. And if you follow the laws of the nature, you will never be doing anything wrong. So when you adapt those, this becomes something that you should adapt and you should understand, and that words becomes dharma. So we don't have the word religion at all. We just use the word dharma. That is the dharma. It is said that what is the dharma of the wind? The dharma of the wind is to flow and give coolness to everything. So that becomes the dharma of the wind. So what is the dharma of a human being? So this is how the word dharma has been described. So it is called the Hindu dharma. The word Hindu comes from the word of he comes from heart, hriday. The first word for heart in Hindi is, or Sanskrit, is hriday. Hriday means heart. If you look at the word hriday, this is from the word where English word heart also has been borrowed. So hri, the first word of hri, is to give and take or receive. And the second word du is something that we distribute. So the word Hindu means the one who receives knowledge and distributes, or one who receives whatever goodness may be there in the world and distributes, does not keep it to himself.
Mhm.
This is the meaning of the word Hindu. Now, I have told you the principles that make the Hindu faith or Hindu dharma. Arunaji, have I missed out anything?
Piyushji, I wanted to know about the regarding origin of universe. What you explained is that where the Hiranyagarbha is called, it is mentioned in our Rigveda also, no? Hiranyagarbha, golden
Yeah.
womb.
Hiranyagarbha tam samavartatagre bhuta sajata patireka
Yes,
asit.
exactly.
Yes,
So,
Hiranyagarbha means golden womb.
huh.
The modern scientists who are working on the Big Bang theory have already understood that there is a golden womb.
Right.
When the creation is made, there is a golden womb that gets burst. When it gets bursts, that's when the Big Bang theory is all based upon. But they have not been able to go beyond to understand how the golden womb was formed. Right? This is where the Big Bang theory has got stuck for the time being. They have now started from the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, they have now started talking about the God content. Before this, the scientists never believed something known as God content. But now they've started talking about the God content, which say we will give a name to it, but for now we are calling it the God content. That's how it has been accepted. But yes,
It's like it's like an
correct.
effect without a cause, right? It's like nothing.
That's correct. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. So what there is in that theory is that is inside the Vedas described as Hiranyagarbha. It is called the golden womb. That whenever the creation, then I'll have to go back to the theory of creation to explain everything. So I was not touching it yet. I was waiting for the basics to be laid out first, and then I could talk about other things. But
You
have
know
I
more
missed
about
out?
this than me. You're jumping ahead. I need some basics first, I think.
That's right. Actually, we are jumping ahead. Let's talk about the basics. So, have I missed anything in the basics, Arunaji? That's what I asked you.
You have covered everything and very nice manner. You have covered in a systematic manner. You covered.
So let's recap it, and you can tell me if I have still. It looks like there are gaps. That we believe in one creator or the God. We call him Om. We believe that the creation is made so that the souls can take birth in a form, body form, and they can perform karma and get the fruits of the karmas. There could be balanced karmas, or there could be one that are coming new, whatever we want to do. The ultimate of any human life should be that we should be getting rid of this cycle of birth and death, and that is what is known as salvation or moksha. And that we should understand that the principle of karma and karmfal or karma's fruits is unending, not deniable. We cannot contradict it, we cannot challenge it, it cannot be stopped. It has to be there always. And as there is a principle of karma and karmfal, there is a principle of rebirth. All souls will have a body depending upon the balances of their karmas or karma fruits. This is the basic. The nature or the matter or the creator is creation is made by the creator so that we can come onto the surface of this earth and perform what we have to do. Or it also gives us an ability to come and do our karmas in a way that we do a zero balance and get rid of the cycle of death and birth. So this is why the whole creation has been made. But the creation entirely is made with the atoms that are created or that are energized and made by the God, even though the essential basic of the creation, which we call the Mool Prakriti or the Parmanus, God does not make them. But he controls. So he controls just like he controls our lives and our fruits of our karma, he controls the making. So this is why we call the whole creation as a very intelligent creation. It has nothing that is a waste in it. Everything is formed for a reason and everything works towards a reason. So is our human bodies or animal bodies or anybody else. They're all there because of a reason. And that is the basics that we form with us. These are the beliefs that we go on. And this is what leads us to become vegetarians. And also, this also tells us that if we are going to perform something, if it is mental thought also, we are going to bear the fruits. So be careful in what you think. And this is why the thing is, when we want to learn these things, the first book we pick up normally is a Gita. I must tell you this, that when I started reading Gita for the first time, I was, I think, 24 years of age. It mostly flew over my head and I could make nothing out of it much. Till I was 29, I think that I picked up Gita again. And now it also depends upon who is translating it for you to understand. So I picked up a different translation second time. And this time I understood much better. And then I would say that I have read Gita for like 7 or 8 times and with different translators. And I would have in my house, I think I have about 12 or 13 copies of different Gitas that I do read all the time. Right now, in my study group, we are working on Gita, and I do a session on Gita on every Saturday, Sunday, which Arunaji attends. And that's what we are doing right now. Though I have done Upanishads before also, and I have read all the darshan, I have read all the Upanishad. And parts and parcels of Vedas I read frequently. I cannot say I pick up the Veda and read the whole thing because that's very tedious. And even sometimes proper translations are not available. Now, every mantra, I don't know how to explain it. Every mantra that is in Vedas would have at least 3 implications. One is spiritual, one is formative, which is either physics or chemistry or science, and there is a third one also, Adhyatmik, Adidevik. Third one is the forces that make the creation, that explains the forces that make the creation. So these 3 meanings are always there in any mantra we read. In 3 different ways it can be translated. So this is where I do my things and my study, and this is what primarily it is. So now whatever you have understood from the basics of Hinduism, if you want to reflect it back in your mind, and you can ask me any question you have with you.
So I had a question about this ascension towards salvation, and how we are going through this cycle of rebirth until we reach this salvation. Is there any concept that it gets harder the closer you are to the goal? So I'm close to balancing my karma, or is there no such thing? Like, you can't measure it in that way.
Yes, it is. You can measure it, and it always becomes harder.
It always, yeah. So
Because
as you get
there are
closer,
tests. There are tests that are put forth in front of you, and when you're able to see, either you will succumb. In the Gita has been spoken by Krishna, so we call him Lord Krishna, or people worship him also as Krishna. In Gita, Krishna says that Gita is like a 2-man act. If you look at it as a play going on a stage, it's a 2-man act. One man represents the humanity and asks the question like all you and me would, and the other man represents what the God might tell you. And he is in a trance when he's talking about it. Because when he's asked later on in life, he says, I can't tell you again because I don't know what I told you, or I cannot recollect in that manner anymore. So in Gita, he puts it in a very, very different manner. You can call it in a lighter manner, but he says, look, my job is to run this universe. To run this universe and the world, I need souls that can be put to the earth so that they can perform whatever they can perform, because that runs my business. So if I will give salvation to every soul, how am I going to run my universe? So what will happen is this, that when you try to be good and you leave away all bad things, I will put a new lure in front of you. So they are lured into something bad.
an
Obstacles. Once you slip, you're back into the same rigmarole of going through the problems again.
Right.
And once you are into it, then again you are back into the death and birth cycle. But if you keep yourself good and strong, I'll be very happy. But next time I'll give you a stronger obstacle. And the third time, there could be even stronger obstacle. But when you are able to keep yourself away from all the obstacles and still you are able to come to me, I will extend my arms and embrace you. And then you will get the salvation. So this is how he puts it in Gita. But there is a different concept in one of the Upanishads that we had studied in my group. I think the Manduk Upanishad. In the Manduk Upanishad, the concept of a Brahm Chakra is there, which means that there is a wheel that is going on that has been created by the creator, where the souls go and get stuck, and it spins and everybody is thrown back and you have come back to the earth. It gives 250 reasons why souls go back and get stuck. And it all is based from, surely it's based from karma, but very large amount of it is from your ego, from the ego system that the human beings have. And then the ego system does not allow a person to get the right knowledge. It rather follows the bad knowledge or the ill knowledge.
Yeah,
So
it's
ego
interesting
system,
because that's you know how you said that they operate on 3 levels, karma, and the way I was thinking about it in my head when you were explaining it is like the obvious one is the physical action, right?
correct.
You can see that what you do returns back to you in some way. The next one being speaking, again, that's a little more abstract, but again, you can see how what you would say might affect things. And then the third one being what you think. And, this was making me think 2 things. One, you can do good deeds, but be thinking poorly. And, there's a conflict in that, obviously.
Yes.
And the fruits that each of those things will bear would be different. But on top of that, I know you've been lining up a lot of this with like modern studies and stuff. In psychology, there's been a big turn in the last, let's say, 20 years about what you think matters, in that the thoughts that you have in your head can impact the way that you feel emotionally, right? There is this element of the controlling your thoughts has an impact on you, even though, a lot of the times you would think about you don't control those things, but kind of there is this element of what you think matters. It's not just what you do. And that just really resonated with me when you were explaining it. So
I'll give you a very real example. My wife, I was married to my wife for 44 years. My wife died last year.
I'm sorry.
Now, my wife had excelled. She was a very, very good artist and a painter. And she was a yoga teacher. So she used to teach yoga. Now, my wife had very good green fingers. She could grow things very, very well. Anything and everything she could do. She would plant a certain plant. Say she's planting 3 or 4 of the same plant. I would be digging the mud for her, and she'll be putting the plant like this. She was be putting the boxwood plant in one here and one, two, and third one there, and the fourth one here, and she'll make it a row. And I would have dug the row. Now she'll be planting and I'm thinking about them. A day later, she'll be looking at it when the plants have still not come out or they've not grown or whatever. She'll be looking at it and telling me, you know what? We have to dig one more because I think the plant number 3 is not going to come. I would ask her, why do you think so? She had no answer. She said, no, I believe it's not going to come. And it would happen. It would happen. I'm telling you about the plants, but this is what I've seen with my wife multiple times in many things, in many, many things. It's yes, the thought matters, thinking matters, because it affects. Now, what I'm telling you is what physically happens, and I can understand it. But there are so many things that don't happen physically, but then they are in the mind. Some of the study books give an example that a man goes and commits a murder, and he's prisoned and he's given punishment by the society or by the laws. But that's a physical act. But a man who tells or threatens somebody also is sometimes physically jailed or prisoned or punished because you have spoken something wrong. But where does one get a punishment for the thinking? I might be thinking I'm going to murder this guy, but I never speak about it.
Right.
But the thought is there. But that is where the karma says that even the thoughts you will be punished for.
Yeah, and
Now,
sorry,
everything that we do comes from the thoughts. See, it has to be a thought in your mind first.
Mhm.
Then only will you perform it. So this is why control it at the stage of the thought.
Mhm.
Yes, what were you saying?
I was going to say, and we can't, as a society, do anything about the thoughts. Like that is we don't know other people's thoughts to that level. We know their actions and their words to some degree, but the thoughts are really between you and, everything else. It's nothing. There's no societal intervention there. So you're not going to go to jail for your thoughts, but you're not going to go to a physical jail, a society jail, but there is perhaps a different type of jail that your thoughts put you in.
They will eventually put you in a jail by your different deeds that will happen.
Right,
You'll
exactly.
do something or the other wrong. It comes back
Yeah.
to you.
Right.
Comes back to you. So this is why the karma theory believes like this.
Hmm.
Anything else in your mind that we've spoken about till now?
So much, but I gotta digest it first.
Yes, you will have to digest it. And then many questions will come to your mind. Many
Yes.
more will come to your mind.
Yes.
Now, I have a problem about next few Wednesdays.
Okay.
On next Wednesday, I got to go to the Bowmanville Hospital for an eye laser thing.
I had one 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. I don't know. They're doing it on 5th of April, 9 in the morning. I hope it doesn't give me too much trouble, but
What is it? Are they sealing a hole or is it like a cataract?
no, it's going to, yes, probably sealing something because I have a bleeding vein in the eye.
I had a tear which was going to lead there. It
Yeah.
was a little uncomfortable, but it didn't hurt.
Okay, but I'm also going through injections in my eye.
Oh wow.
I've
That's
already
not
had
good.
4 of them.
Oh wow.
So fourth one was yesterday. And before I do the fifth one, the doctor asked me to go for this laser thing so that it can be sealed or corrected or whatever it is. Now the dates given to me is Friday 5th and Friday 19th. Wednesday 5th and Wednesday 19th.
Yeah,
So
you
these
got to
two,
take it when it's available. So I
yes.
get it.
So these
Yeah.
2 Wednesdays I will not be able to attend a call if you make it. We can fix another day if you like it,
I
like
would
a
love to.
Thursday
I
or a
mean,
Friday.
I picked Wednesday just because it seemed like in the middle of the week, but I can do Thursday or Friday. It's perfectly fine.
So whatever looks good to you, I can do it on that day also.
So should we do Thursday then at the same time?
Arunaji, are you okay if you want to join me next Thursday also?
Yes, yes, Piyushji.
If you
Thursday is
want,
okay?
It's okay for me. Yes.
if Friday's better, I'm available. That makes no difference. So if you'd prefer Friday, I could do Friday as well.
Okay, no issue. Yeah.
Should we do Friday?
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's do
Friday.
it Friday.
Okay.
So we will do it Friday, the 7th of April.
Wonderful.
Next one.
So
I wanted to make 2 comments. Shall I?
Go ahead, Arunaji.
One is, just now we were discussing that for thoughts, the punishment is not given. For physical activity, when we do the punishment, person is sent to jail. But I feel that when a crime is committed, that time also, what was the thought behind it? What was the intention behind it?
right.
That is also
Yeah.
checked.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a kind of thought is checked, that what was there in your mind, whether it happened accidentally or you did it intentionally.
Right.
So thought is counted. That's what I feel. That is one thing. And second thing I wanted to say is, Piyush will tell us more about it, that our entire Patanjali Yoga Sutra, one of the darshanas, is based on this fact only. And it will be really good if Piyush tells us in detail about some other day, if we conduct session on Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. Entire that philosophy is how to control your mind. So
You
it is
see,
really
this will,
Piyush, some other day you please
when we
tell us
talk
about.
about thoughts, we will have to talk about what we call sanskaras. There is something we believe it is called samskaras. From samskaras, what happens when there is a thought, or how does the thought impress the sanskaras?
Okay.
And then how does it come into a format where we start getting really punished for the thoughts? And how does the yoga, as you have said, the yoga darshana, how does it describe it? I will talk about it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Remind me if I forget,
Sure,
but
sir.
I will. There is so much that I will.
Actually, the knowledge is so vast, and Piyush ji knows so much. My goodness, we regularly attend his session. We just get mesmerized by what he says.
It's
Chalo,
wonderful and easy to understand, to be honest. Like, I know it's complicated, but I feel like I am getting more of it than
No,
I
I
would.
try my best. I try my best to make it as simple as I can. As
Mhm.
simple as I can. That's
And
why
there's
I
a
use
whole
the examples, modern day examples.
yes.
and there's a whole language thing here too, right? Like, you're translating for me. I'm sure that you didn't originally read all of this stuff in English, so there's an extra layer there, but I appreciate it, and I do think I understood most of what was going on today. So
Thank you, Daniel. Now, go through it and get into whatever questions you have in your mind, because you will
I will.
have surely questions.
I,
And ask me again.
I don't know if you can tell, but I'm full of questions at all times. So when it's a
You're welcome.
topic that is this grand, the questions will not be hard to come by.
No, you're welcome. I'm very, very happy you're asking questions. If you don't ask questions, I will not understand what you've understood and what you've not understood.
Wonderful. Yes, I agree.
So, yes, I'm very happy with that. So, do you want to carry on for some more time, or should we meet the Friday next?
Friday, I have to go. I have to run to work. But
Yeah.
yes, Friday, I would love to do this again on Friday.
So, Friday the 7th, it will be.
Yes. Did you want to set up a Zoom? Do you want me to
Yeah,
send you a
same
message?
Zoom. I'll give you the same message. I'll forward it to you and connect with me. It'll be the
Wonderful.
same link, same password. Everything will be same.
Wonderful.
Okay. I'm using this Zoom from 2.5 years. So I'm using it regularly.
It's a well-worn Zoom then. I
Yeah, it
appreciate it.
is.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And we say namaste. Thank you for
Namaste.
joining. Thank you very much. Take care.